Today is April 12th or April 15th, 2024. My name's Cecilia Nguyen, and I'm here today with Miss Nali on behalf of the Houston Asian American Archive at Rice University. Could you please state your full name and where and when you were born?
Last name Li, first name Na. I was born in Jilin province, China.
Yeah, so I wanted to first ask what your life was like growing up in China in the province that you were from.
How do you mean? What is it like?
Um, like a broad overview of how your life was, like your parents' occupations, your education you received, what you did on a day-to-day basis, anything that you're comfortable with sharing.
Well, it's been a long time. Um, my parents was both. I think when they get married, they are both. My dad was working for iron company, so he is a worker as most of the people, and my mom was accountant for a company. And I think back then, most of everybody's family when I was born are like working blue collars, give or take, something like that. So then my mom started doing business when I was 6 years old. So she started selling clothing goods when right before I get into elementary school. And then after I got to elementary school, she kept on doing that. I think that's when, like, I probably 1 year prior to the my elementary school, she quit her job and started this. And then, well, prior to this, I was growing up in hmm I think I was I think I was sent out to boarding school when I was maybe 5 years old, maybe for a year. I don't remember, but I do remember the boarding school. It was pretty harsh, and I don't get to see my parents that often. Maybe once a month, once a week. I don't know. I don't remember. All I remember is I was in boarding school, and then eventually I came back home. I think when I was older. I guess that's when they have a little bit more energy to take care of me. Um, and then so after I entered elementary school, my mom started her business as a entrepreneur, and I think not too long after, maybe after my elementary school, my dad retired due to his problem with his stomach. Um, and then I got into middle school. And when I was in high school last year, before I would, no, the 2 years prior to my last year to finish high school, my dad came here. And then right after I got into college, I got a visa to come here too.
Yeah, that sounds really great. And I kind of wanted to get a sense of more your day-to-day memories and emotions kind of being growing up in China. What were some of your fondest memories growing up?
Hmm. Hmm. Fondest memory. I guess being locked up in the house or maybe sneak out to just have fun with my childhood friends. Um That's pretty much it.
That sounds
Hmm.
fun. And then you mentioned that your mom was an entrepreneur and sold the clothing. Um, how did your mom's career impact your own interests early on in your life? Did they ever push you to pursue certain interests or certain fields of study growing up?
Actually, I think I mentioned when I was 6 years old, uh, my mom started her business, because she met a very good friend of her. Later on, became her very good friend, and she was the one who introduced her to the business. And I guess my mom has some guts to just quit a job. Back then, no one quits their job and start doing business because it's a little bit biased towards being entrepreneur. But I guess she was pretty brave to start that. And did you also mention if they impact me? Right. So I guess working, well, we don't have a lot of babysitters, and my mom was one of six six siblings. So no one was taking care of me. So whenever she started her entrepreneurship, a lot of time I will be on the street selling clothes with her when I was about 6, up till maybe when I was on 3rd grade. Then she started, I think, in a kind of a mall. Yeah. I guess because I was doing that with her, it kind of give you some idea of how to do business, how to deal with people. I remembered when I was little, it was in we were from northeast of China in the Jilin province. So there's 4 seasons. And during that 4 seasons, in winter is extremely cold, and we're still selling on the street. So there's not a place to heat up anything. So you have to wear like winter clothes all day long. It was pretty harsh start for her, but I guess the impact was, if you want to be making something out of your life, you just have to be persistent and be smart business people trying to catch the trend. I guess that's the impact.
Yeah, I think that's so cool that you had that experience from such an early age. Kind of moving into your experience with immigrating to the US. When did you move to the US and what prompted you to do so?
1997 is the year when I came here. I think I landed on August the 7th. That is when I finished my high school and got into law school in China, but I also got the visa almost exactly the same time, because I was supposed to go get my visa 3 months prior to the entrance exam for the college, but I need additional document. So, giving the situation back then, it might have a chance of not getting it. So the safest thing for me to just to try to prepare for the entrance exam, and then right after the exam, um, I got the visa, and that's when almost the same time I got the acceptance for um, getting to the law school. So it's about the same time. Then I have to make a decision. I guess I didn't have to make a decision. Just my parents make the decision for me. So I came here and gave up the college in China.
And how did you feel about kind of that? It sounds like it was I guess, a big decision between the law school and coming to the US. And how did you feel like during that time and about like the decision that was made? regarding you coming to the US over the law school in China?
It's not a back then I was only 17. I don't think it's a decision made by me. It's more like a decision by my parents. I don't really have a say. Well, I have a say, but I mean, back then to come here, it's a good opportunity. So my mom applied for 1 year absence in college just in case I don't like it here. That's when I came here. So, Chinese parents, at least back then, 1997. So, um, all the decisions are pretty much made by my parents.
Yeah. Um, and I guess coming here and being a student and not really knowing your way around a new country, what are some challenges that you faced when trying to adjust to life here?
Challenges. Hmm. I guess it's all about money, back then. Because I was an international student. I came here, I got into a language school, and the tuition is not cheap. And then eventually I got into HCC and University of Houston. So throughout, I was because of the international students, I was paying like 3 times of what other people have to pay. So the biggest burden will be money. And I am a very um, hardworking person, I guess, ever since I was little. I don't want my parents to be burdened with everything. So I was working 30 hours a week and then 40 hours in school at least. So that's the challenge. Money is always the challenge.
And I guess like since you talked about language school and going to HTC and then UH, what were your experiences with each of those forms of schooling?
Hmm. It was fun. It's it's excitement. I mean, I guess because that's when I first get into the society. Um, juggling between school and work. I guess it kind of trains you to um know like how to be a hard worker.
Mm, yeah. On top of kind of the challenges that you talked about financially, did you experience any culture shocks moving here? And if so, do you recall any specific moments where those culture shocks happened?
Culture shock. I wouldn't call it shock. I think it's a good thing. The reason I decided to stay is because I think I met a lot of heartwarming people. I remember this one incident. My dad has to go to pick up someone from Florida, and back then there's no cell phone. I think that's 1998, maybe. So I don't think we have a cell phone back then, and so you have to look at the map when you go on travel for a long trip. And I think we got lost in a small town. We just somewhat I just can't get out of the little town because the sign, and I was so young. My English was decent, but not to the point that I would be able to read the map, look at the road and do all that. So that was with between me and my dad. And then he doesn't speak English, so I have to be the one who kind of whenever we get lost, we have to get off the car and ask someone. And I remember this one time we were just truly lost. So there's this guy was getting on his truck, and my dad forced me to ask him for directions. I don't like to ask for directions, not because I was shy. It's just he keeps on asking me to ask people, and just that's annoying. And it just I don't like to bother other people. if I can resolve the issues. But we were totally lost. So I got out of the car, went up to him, and he said a whole bunch of things. Again, my English wasn't all that great. I can communicate, but to a certain point. So he explained. He looked at the map and trying to explain the where to turn, left, right, all that. And then so I guess he saw me um lost, and then he asked me, "Did you get it?" And I was like, "Yes." So I guess he saw the hesitation. He know I didn't truly get it, and then he just jumped on the car and say, "Just follow me." So he lead us to the correct way, out of his way, and then lead us back to the highway, and then just point that you just keeps on going. And he exited. So I guess the heartwarming, those are the heartwarming moments that kind of make me feel like staying here is a good choice.
Yeah, for sure. I think going along the line of people that you've met here that have really impacted your experience, were there any important people in particular who helped you a lot during your early journey in the US as a new immigrant and a new college student here?
I guess I was a very lucky person. I don't have a car for at least 2 years. I was taking a bus to go to, I think that's uh again, finance is always the issue. And you know going to HCC and Central um, University of Houston, it's a long drive. So I wasn't ready to take on the car to be on the highway and all that. So I think for 2 years I don't have a car. Then there's a lot of people, my coworker who work with me in the restaurant, give me rides, send me home, and taking buses to college and university. I think I when I get to U of H, that's when I already have a car. But for as long as HCC, I have to get up like 6:30 in the morning to catch my first class at 8 o'clock in the morning, and still that might get me late because the bus is pretty it's pretty predictable. It's like a 1 hour. Where I used to live is also in Chinatown, like Chinatown. So taking a bus all the way to college, it would take me at least 1 hour and 50 minutes, give or take. So I guess that's pretty challenging. Each way, I have to every day I have to do like almost 3 hours on the bus. So a lot of time I just fall asleep on the bus, and it was a pretty tiring trip. But I get to meet some friends in college. Sometimes people would pick me up, give me a ride. And whenever we need to go out to eat something like a student get together, people will give me rides. I guess that's the good part of meeting fortunate people. And I guess all that I would consider lucky. I'm the kind of person tend to cherish small little things in life, because big things you have to work hard to get, but small little things which kind of uh, make your day is those little small moments.
And I know you mentioned living in Chinatown, and kind of finding community through college and people that would help you out. Were you able to find any sort of solid Chinese community when you arrived in Houston?
No, I was never interested in being in the Chinese society because I want to practice my English. I want to fit in. And I don't want to be around a lot of Chinese people to speak English, to speak Chinese every day. So no, I don't have a lot of Chinese friends. I Most of my friends are foreign. And even if I have Chinese friends, we are always with other people. So trying to be polite, we don't speak Chinese in front of other people either.
I see. And then I kind of wanted to get a little bit more sense of your experience in terms of education here in the US. Could you briefly describe your experience as a student at HCC and UH and how being a Chinese immigrant impacted your college experience?
Mm. Um, so I went to English language school first for I think maybe 3 months to half a year. I can't remember. It's been too long. And then I got because I have to pass TOEFL to get into U of H, and to get into HCC, you still need other entrance exam. So then I got into HCC, took some entrance class for maybe a year and a half to 2 years, and then I transferred to U of H. And you said how the Chinese culture impact my uh student's life?
Yes, and additionally, just overall, what was your experience like as a student at UH?
Does it have anything to do with the being Chinese? I don't quite
Um,
get.
Yeah, you could answer it both ways. You could talk generally about your experience as a student at UH, and if there was some way that being a Chinese immigrant impacted that, then you could also share that as well.
Hmm. U of H is pretty difficult because I got into a major that I hated. But my kind of again, my parents, the Chinese culture is being forced into something I don't want to do. My parents want me to go to computer science, and which is something I'm not interested at all. So, um, I think for college years is pretty much suffering for me. And ever since I left school, I've never coded once in my life because it's something I hate. I don't tend to do. And so for I don't think being Chinese culture, I think a lot of people that I talked to over the years experience some, racism, but I don't feel at all. Maybe because I'm a very outgoing person. So I treat everyone that I met, and because I can communicate pretty decent, so I'm a outgoing person, and on top of that, I'm a very nice person. So I made a lot of friends. So I don't feel all most of my friends are not American people. Most of my friends are immigrants, not Chinese, but other culture from other culture. So you understand, Houston has a big culture, of varieties. So a lot of my experience are with different culture. So that's why I learned a lot about other country, enjoy a lot of food with them. And food is a lot of things later on develop into one of my career. But in college, I don't think um, I encountered. I guess I'm a fortunate person, um, to meet good people. So there's always difficulty, but I guess I don't see it that way. I guess it's just growing up pain. Everybody have to go through, but my life probably are pretty harsh then because juggling between school and work is a lot. It's a lot. I remember every Friday, that's my college year. Every Friday, I work between 5 o'clock. I have to go to work, and I work for restaurants. So between five to, I'm the closing person. It's a Japanese restaurant. Back then, it was a very famous Japanese restaurant. So I have to close between. I'm the last person to leave because I'm the last person to come. So between 5 o'clock at night to 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when I work, and then Saturday whole day, Sunday whole day. So it's pretty challenging managing time, juggling between work and study, and it's a career that I don't enjoy. So I guess the most challenging or saddening thing would be going to school and kind of doing something I'm not enjoying at all. But just for the sake of get a degree.
Yeah, I understand that. I used to be a computer science major as well, and it wasn't the most enjoyable. But you mentioned having to work a lot and also balance that with being a student. Um, could you tell us more about your experience with working a job as a college student? Like, what was the specific restaurant that you worked at, and what was your experience working there?
So this restaurant is called this is later on. My very first one restaurant experience was in Chinatown. I was working there for like 3 months. Then I got a better job at a I think the restaurant still exists. I don't remember the name, but I remember it's on Memorial and maybe they sold it. Memorial and Gessner. So it's a Korean owned it's a Chinese Korean owned Korean restaurant. So they're uh, immigrated to Korea, and they were there for quite a while before they came to the United States. And I remember the owners are horrible, like very bad people. They kind of slave you to the attitude they gave you. It's like they're above you, and um, it just overall their family is just not nice people, but the money was good. And again, I am dedicated to not having my parents to pay for all the tuition. I just don't want my parents to go through um all the trouble to financially support me by themselves. So whatever I can make, at least it would be compensate the books, my food and other expenses. I guess from when I was very little, I like the freedom of having my own money um, to pay for something that I think is valuable and not to burden my parents. So I was working for the Korean restaurant for a year and a half, and I quit because again, I was for a year and a half. I just encountered something I guess from early age I would know life is hard, especially when you have very bad uh, boss to work with. But again, the money was good. So I think I cried several times because it would just, and there's several times I want to quit. But then um, I guess I don't have a very supportive parents ever since I was little. So the family dynamic is um, my parents was always fighting growing up. It's not a very good childhood. So that I guess that's make me a little bit more independent, that I know I can't depend on them, and at the same time I don't want to depend on them. Regardless of what kind of family they're providing for me, I don't if I can make it by myself and not bother with them so they don't get into argument. I guess that's my point. So even though I was suffering so much for like a year and a half in that Korean restaurant, I stuck with it. I told myself I need to stuck with it because the money is good. And eventually it gets so bad to the point that it's really the stress and the burden and the insulting, it just doesn't worth the money. And then I quit. I went to and that's when my English is getting a little bit better. So I went to a Japanese restaurant. The first Japanese restaurant I was working at is called Kiri. There's still one location I think in Houston. And then after 3 months, it was a buffet place. And then I got a better job at Cafe Japan. And Cafe Japan back then was a franchising restaurant. There's 5 locations in Houston, and I get to go to every single location whenever they need people. So for the restaurant experience, I guess the money is getting better and better. So eventually I can, pay for the gas, my school books, my clothes, my food, and all the small money I would consider because the tuition is the big money, which I can't afford. Probably part of it, a little bit, but most of the time is from the parents. And My money is just for my daily spending, so that I don't have to ask my parents for the money. But again, if my parents are any more supportive, um, I wouldn't be working for that restaurant that long. So eventually I got into Cafe Japan. Again, back then that was one of the most famous Japanese restaurant in Houston. And that was one of the best experience for work, because the manager was Hispanic. He works his way up. And even though he was very strict, he's very hard on us, but you learn so much from him. So he's hard on us, but fair. He's hard doesn't mean he's not nice. He is from he's now I look back, I look at his position. He's one of the best manager a person can ask for. Not only you learn a lot, but also you see how he run the restaurant, and he kind of whoop us into shape. I say whoop, it's a jokingly. It's not like whooping us, but he's so strict to the point that we follow rule. So you know what rule you follow, you know how to hard work to make your way up. I guess that's one of the best experience I have for restaurant experience.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It sounds like during this time of your life, you learned a lot of things and had to go through a lot. I guess for going back to your education at UH and HCC, how did your education there impact your future life decisions and your career?
Hmm. Education wise, again, I was forced into a career I didn't have passion about. So I think the most valuable thing from college for me would be building how to learn how to build friendship, how to build connections, and um just I think that's pretty much it. Education wise, I think other than English, um to be more improved on English, everything else I don't think I get benefit a lot of benefit from a college. So that's why I'm a former believer I eventually want to be an educator. um Eventually, hopefully one day I'll open my own school. But I'm a firm believer is, you follow your passion. If you don't like something, don't pursue it. But if you do like something, you need to be persistent. It doesn't matter how hard it gets. Eventually, after years of building up, eventually it would blossom into something that you would cherish for.
Yeah, so despite not kind of pursuing a career that you wanted to at UH, I wanted to segment or segue into your career after grad. How did you find yourself going into your first job after grad, despite not pursuing that career during college? I guess like what experiences led you to your first job and how did you find yourself there?
So a funny thing, when the time when I got out of school, that's when the economy kind of collapsed. And computer science was supposed to be the most demanding job when I was in. That's why my parents put me into that career path. But when I got out of school, that's when everything collapsed and no one can find a computer science job. So I think one of my dad's friend came from California. He opened his business for granite countertops and cabinets. And I guess back then there's nothing better to do, so I got a assistant job, like an office assistant or a secretary kind of job. It's like I think I'm a one woman for everything. I have to work for so many different. Like a one woman wearing so many different hats. It the company only has the owner. He is Chinese also, but he's born here, so his English is not that good. So I was his assistant, his office manager, his everything. And then there's a couple people working for the warehouse because they have to ship out things or doing pickup, and I have to make invoices and selling, doing all the selling and doing his online promotion as well. um so that's my first job for like maybe 3 months. I was actually getting paid pretty good. I think I because I asked for $12 and he gave it to me. So for 2000, I think that's 2002. So for 2002, for making $12 an hour, that's a lot. Usually people make it between 8 to 10, but um, I think I was selling something online back then because back then eBay was pretty hot, and I was selling something online. I was making decent money, so I don't necessarily have to have a job, but just to have some work experience, then that's why I get that job. So that job helped me to learn how to run an office. And I was there for 3 months. And then I started working for opportunity. I was in a bank one day, doing some, you know, um, depositing or something. I can't remember exactly. Then I think something I need to talk to one of the people from the office. Then they send me there, and then this one lady, we were talking, and she really liked the way how outgoing and how fun person I can be with. So she helped his husband recruited me. Her husband worked for a New York Life insurance company. So she said, "My husband, I think you're very fitting to sell insurance. Maybe one day you can talk to my husband." Um, so I think I wasn't ready then, and a half a year later, I joined New York Life Insurance Company. That was my second job.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. It sounds like you've had to be really flexible with in terms of your career. Um, could you um, speak a little as to what motivates you to switch between the various career roles that you've held?
Um, I think for the first one, I worked there for like 3 months. I guess the business, he's a startup, and he used to do IT. He doesn't really know how to run a business. He's doing okay because that back then, that direction for entrepreneurship, selling cabinets and uh granite countertop is pretty hot. So I think what happened was he is trying to expand it to Louisiana, and trying to, after a while, that's when that's when Louisiana has the hurricane or something. So he want to move over there. And then his girlfriend came down from California to help him. And that's when I guess it's good time for me to leave too, because he has enough help, because the business doesn't need a lot of people back then. And I always thought that was just a temporary job for me, because just opportunity presented itself. It's not something I like to do. um I maybe because my parents had their business when I was young, and I was helping them to selling clothes when I was 6 years old. So being chasing for freedom and running my own business is something I really cherish, unless it's with something that I can learn a lot from. I always want a better job. So I guess then when the opportunity presented itself, then switched to a New York Life Insurance Company.
Yeah, and I know you spoke briefly about some marketing and real estate roles that you've had. Could you provide kind of a brief timeline of your other professional experiences and tell us how those have evolved over time after
Oh,
your role at New York Life Insurance?
I think being with New York Life Insurance Company for a year, that was one of my best experience of my life. I think everything I learned, everything how I become who I am today, I think it all due to my good experience at New York Life Insurance Company. Number one is because the it's one of the biggest company in the world, so their training uh, system is very, very good. I was a very dedicated person. It's because it's something that new and interesting, so it draws a lot of attention for me. The training was about 3 months. It's very intensive training, and in that 3 months, you can choose to sell, but they don't encourage you to. They want you to be fully understand what a product and you're doing. So not only they we have to learn the product information, we have to learn the sales skills. I think all my um entrepreneurship get to next level because of the selling skills that I learned from New York Life. The trainers are just so wonderful, and my boss, my back then manager, is also my godmother now. We had a very good bonding. Um I think because the communication we had, because I told her it's a her, Connie Lai. So I told Connie, I'm the kind of person I don't like to be forced into something I don't like to do. I like my freedom, and my freedom entitles me. If I don't want to come to the Monday, reward. Monday is usually a it's not mandatory. You can come, you don't have to come, but as always a good student as I am, I try to obey the rule. But sometimes I'm not a very good morning person when I was younger. Maybe because most of the time, all my other work involves working really late. Like when I was working for the restaurant business and when I was in college, and with my schoolwork. So I'm a very late night person. So I don't like to get up early in the morning. So I told her, I'm the how to. I think back then I already know how other people can motivate me, and I like to have good conversation with my boss because I think having a good relationship with your boss, it will create a good environment for you to develop your other skills with their help. So I told her straight up, I don't have to have this job, but I think this might benefit me in the long run. I don't like to be forced to be pushed to sell all the time. I do believe insurance is helping people, so I'm a very determined. I'm selling because I'm determined to help people. And I think selling insurance is helping people to protect their family. That's why I was dedicated. But again, I don't like to push with a quota. So she and I have a very good relationship, understanding how to help each other and push each other. So she helped me whenever I need it, never bother me when I kind of doing my own thing. And with the training, a good, great, the best training in the world, from New York Life Insurance Company. Um, for that 1 year, I was a top sales in her group, and um, it helps you to understand how to work with people, how to close deals, how to work with different class of people, like and um I think there's a lot of, again, I don't like to mention this, but a lot of people tell me about race and stuff. I'm never a racist person at all. I do know, like, as far as Asian culture, we're scared of certain race, or kind of be away from people who doesn't work hard and stuff. But it was never really an issue for me. I think I can learn something from every person. There's a Chinese saying, uh, every three person walk together, there's always one person can be your teacher. So that's kind of my motto to life, that I never look down on other people. I always respect people. New people I meet, whoever it is, I give enough respect, and I'm a very friendly person. So that helped me building my insurance selling career. And eventually I was actually planning to be a financial advisor because I was trying to get my security 7. I actually passed my security 7. There's a 63 and security 7 license. I passed one, but then I started another entrepreneurship somewhere else. That's why I quit. But again, this is one of my best, absolutely the best experience of my life. I still thank New York Life to, I still encourage people to buy from New York Life Insurance Company, because I do believe in their product. I do believe in their work ethics and just everything about them. If that answers your question.
Yes, that was great. Thank you so much. Um, and I kind of wanted to, you've mentioned a lot about really enjoying entrepreneurship in your time at New York Life. I wanted to ask what makes you the most passionate about entrepreneurship and the roles that you've been in.
I think again, it's so I'm Pisces. The reason I mentioned that is because I've been learning fortune telling for 10 years. Um, and Western astrology for 4 years. So I'm definitely an expert in astrology, Chinese or Western either. So that helps me to understand that with different people, they have different strength and different shortcoming. And you have to truly understand who you are. So growing up, it's always finding who you are first in order to understand what you like and what best defines you, or what best make you happy. What are you looking for in life, right? I'm still looking, but I think I'm on a good track, because I know I am rising in Aries, so Sun in Pisces. So for me, freedom is extremely important. Ever since I was little, I'm always like a leader in all the group I'm in, always a leader. Um, like I when we go out to play, like a whole bunch of kids, people will follow me because I'm a very brave person, thanks to Iris in Rising. Very um determined, very tomboy like. I'm very brave. I remember I'm always in blood. Like my knees are always broken due to jumping off from a tree, just to have fun. Like I like to have a lot of I like to try a lot of different things thanks to my Pisces side. Um I'm interested in everything, anything and everything. That's why I make a lot of friends. Because every single person come to your life, they have something else to offer. Some different culture, food, um, new hobby, you know. So anything and everything. So I understand I'm the kind of person I love freedom. I don't like to be tied up in the office doing 9 to 5. I noticed that from when I was very very young, and my parents want me to work for a bank, just being a banker and goes all the way up, but I don't like that. So I like different challenges. I like to conquer things. Um, I used to believe there's no in my dictionary. Like I don't accept no in my dictionary. It's always a not yet. So I guess that kind of attitude to give you determinations of on the way to success always, because that's like a key thing to success: being persistent, dedicated, and try your best. Even though you fail, you just need to try harder. Of course, you have to find the right direction first. So I always know I don't like to be tied up in a place um that I can't meet new friends or have new different encounters. That's why ever since the New York life insurance job, it gave me the freedom to be running my own. It's actually the first thing to running my own business. Of course, prior to that, I'm already selling things online, but I wouldn't call it an official running a business, even though it's kind of is. But it gives you the idea of how to run your own business and knowing I don't like to be tied up in a company. So after New York Life Insurance Company, I never ever worked for any company that I have to be there 24/7. It's always a kind of contracting job, and I enjoy that.
So I heard that you mentioned a lot about your spirituality and also about feng shui in your survey that you submitted. And I
Yes.
wanted to kind of get a sense of how you got into these hobbies and passions and why you choose to pursue them.
So I believe in education, of course, always. But I believe in educating myself with something I like, I enjoy, because if you go in if when you have passion for something, that's when you can do good. At least it's a good start. Of course, afterwards it involves a dedication, time, skills, talent, IQ, EQ, everything, right? It have so many different factors. But loving something is the very beginning of starting a new journey or hobby. And I believe in getting things started the right way. So, for example, tennis, golf, anything that I learned over the years, scuba diving, you name it, all the sports I played before, ping pong, badminton, dancing, salsa, different ballroom dancing, shooting pool, all different hobbies. I start off um, is first because it's something I never done before, and I want to do it. And then I always hire a good teacher, even though it requires a lot of money. But what's life for, right? So starting off right foot, um, having somebody train you well, is a good start for starting hobby, and then you elaborate on it. Eventually, you get the method, and you practice, and eventually, hopefully, you get somewhere that I'm very good at it. And then once you get really good at it, you can move on to a different hobby. Then, so jumping from different hobbies, I can say that I'm good with a lot of things because, again, you always find a good teacher first. Paying for good education is something you always should do.
And I guess like specifically for the topic of um your spirituality and the feng shui, I saw that you that's like a cultural pursuit in Houston, so that you chose to involve yourself in, and I wanted to ask how you got involved with that specific cultural pursuit, learning feng shui as well as other things that you mentioned, like speaking on a radio show, and fortune telling.
Ah, so fortune telling started from 2014. That's when I started another journey for real estate. And feng shui and real estate is kind of hand in hand. And I guess I'm blessed with meeting the feng shui master in Houston. His name is Xu Muping. He's my teacher. And it's a funny story that my friend asked me to accompany her to do a reading, and I don't believe in fortune telling. So but again, as a curious baby as I am, I'm curious about everything and anything, and I never reject anything, even though I might not believe in it yet. I still like to know because um you can make a judgment based on what you don't know. You can try to make a judgment. It still might not be a good judgment or right judgment, even if you get to know it. So, but I would at least give it an opportunity to know it first. So I went to um, accompany my friend to do the reading, and it was pretty accurate. And then, so he asked me, "Do you want to do reading?" I said no, but I brought another friend of mine to him, to do another reading because I want to see how good he is. So after he did three of my friends, I believe he is very good. And then I did my reading. So from then on, I think of things elaborating to I start taking class with him because, fortune telling, astrology is not fortune telling. It's more like astrology is a science, right? And it just has so much depth into it, trying to understand yourself first, understand the relationship around you, and understand either karma or how your life has been, why it has been. You learn a lot from your past experience and knowing how things develop into what it is now. So it's been 10 years, and I guess that's one of my best asset to have, because it just helped me to understand. It helped me to be more compassionate about other people, empathetic. I think fortune, like astrology, really helped me to um, be a more humble and down to earth person because every person has his own situation. And after you read their chart, you understand them, and it really helps you to be a better person, I think.
Yeah, for sure. How does kind of your culture and these spiritual beliefs, as well as your practice of fortune telling, how have those intersected with your personal career or your professional
So,
career?
when I started this, I wasn't trying to make it into a career. It's more like a hobby. It's more for me understanding myself and me understanding uh, why any relationship turn into how it goes. What could we improve on? I mean, the concept of learning fortune telling or astrology is to first understand who you are, and then you understand the people around you. Then you learn how to work with them better, building better relationship. And sometimes it also tells you sometimes you just have to give up on something. Again, I told you, I used to believe that there's no in my dictionary. It's just not yet. But after astrology, sometimes fate is. Oh, sorry. So it helps you to be a more compassionate person, and that's what I love about getting to know. Sometimes a lot of people, you don't get along with people, and you try to understand why. I mean, um I'm nice enough, I'm good enough, I'm a very helpful person, I like to help other people, I'm warm-hearted. How come some relationship doesn't work out? So astrology kind of give you a way of different direction of thinking why things doesn't work out. So that kind of help you to see through a lot of things and kind of ease your growing pain a lot. So that's why I think a lot of people should start astrology, and it will kind of resolve your a lot of issues in life.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to kind of pivot into things that you do in your personal life that you talked about briefly. So I think you mentioned kind of having interest in food and also having your own food show. How did you start that experience with having your own Chinese food show, and how has your experience been with that?
Oh, it's a fun journey. So I start off because the radio station, the first radio station I worked for, one of the food channel hosts has has to go back to China for a month, and each week is one program. So my friend asked me if I'm interested in helping him to substitute while he's gone, and I said 4 shows, 30 minutes each show. It's kind of not hard job to take on. So I was like, okay, I don't mind helping. I told you I'm a very helpful person. Whenever somebody needs some help, if within my capability, I would always help. So I took over for 4 episodes And then he came back, and then he started his own restaurant, ramen restaurant. So he can't do this whatsoever because it's his new baby. He has to be very dedicated, and he's all the way up in Conroe, Cypress area. So then I'm the kind of person, I don't just kind of um hey, my job is done, whatever, that's your problem, no one's replacing this. So I was like, okay, I guess I will keep on substitute until they find the right person. So that substitution is like 4 years. And then eventually I move on to a better station, which has more coverage for Houston. It's been in Houston. It's called Texas Chinese Radio Station. It's been in Houston for about 30 years. It's very so the station manager won a lot of rewards, very um, elite rewards. So being with them is actually a blessing. And they give me the freedom again. I think for every boss, quote unquote boss I have, I think before I take on any job, I'm the kind of person, if I take on a job, I would like to deliver to, I wouldn't say perfection, but my kind of perfection. So I don't like to do things half ass, but I want to communicate good to see if we can work together well. So every job I take, this kind of job, I always tell them I need my freedom. I need to be in charge of my own show. So um, so every single hobby, or I treat this as a hobby, working for the radio station. So it's been almost 10 years. Um, it's probably like 8 or 9, something like that, almost 10 years. So I guess it started off with me really trying to share my dining experience with other people. But my original goal was us Chinese people, a lot of people don't speak English. So they have money, but they don't know how to enjoy food because they're afraid they would go to a restaurant, they don't know what to order, and they'll be embarrassed because Chinese people will have a lot of um, so much dignity or so much pride, more like um, the kind of silly pride. So they don't want to get embarrassed. And then my point was, I want to help these people to be more brave. Just try, explore, be adventurous. So that's when I started taking on this job, and then kind of continue doing it. Sharing my experience with other people is something I really enjoy doing. Hence the almost 10 years of food experience. Also, it brings other, friends who enjoy food too. So it's a good journey.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think additionally, other things that you've mentioned being involved in regarding your culture in Houston included Asia Society and the Teo-Chew Temple. Could you talk about how you got involved with those and what you currently do for those organizations?
So when Asia Society, when okay, so I was involved in NAAAP, National Association of Asia uh Young Professionals, and I was a social director. So I met a lot of people because I organized a lot of events and fundraising and stuff for the organization. And then eventually I get to meet Yellow Magazine's owner, who's also running a nonprofit organization. And then I help him with a lot of events, like in the museum, in different, events, like different area of events. So when Asia Society groundbreaking, I was there. I was invited by him, and that's when the mayor and Yao Ming was there as well. So I see Asia Society from the very beginning, and then I become the volunteer for the young professionals for a good, I don't know, maybe 10 years. This is a long time ago, really, really long time ago. And then, so I was involved in so many different nonprofit organizations, like because I was good at fundraising. I was good at organizing different events. Hence, I was the social director, and they want me to be the president, but I just don't have time, and I have other business to run. So I think I was involved in nonprofit organization for probably a good 10 years, and it's really, I guess, at a certain point when you're involved in so many different organizations, you get a little bit burned out. So I want to concentrating. Then 2014, I was trying to concentrating on my real estate career and astrology. So learning astrology is a very hard journey because it's a lot of things to memorize. It's like a going to school full time. So I kind of, just concentrating on those things. And then a good opportunity presented itself. Uh, I think my friend was uh, went to see the opera, and then he was telling me it's a Chinese tenor. So I get a chance to interview him. He's a very famous, apparently, pretty famous one, and he's doing his world tour. So I get to interview him, and then I get to interview the other shows called Big Swim. Big Swim is collaborated by Asia Society and Grand Opera, Houston Grand Opera, and I get to interview every single person who's like involved in there, which lead me to Matt Bana. Bana is the president of Asia Society now, and so we when I interviewed her, I told her I had a lot of story history with Asian society, and now I'm doing different things. I have time to come back and try to help promote Asian society because I have such a long. It's like your old friend, and you pick up your friendship, and it's like immediately it's a hit off. So I help them with some promoting ticket sales and all that. And I guess Bonnet and her team was pretty impressed with what I did for them, uh, all the dedication I had. So they gave me more opportunity to interview people, not only to help them, but to help our radio station to, kind of introducing our audience more culture events. And I think it's like a bridging to help our community to get to know more good events where Asia Society hosted. And the Grand Opera, I also helped them. So Houston Symphony, Houston Ballet, Houston Grand Opera, and Asia Society, those are the four um, nonprofit organizations I've been helping for the past 4 months. And it's very rewarding because number one, I get to meet all these interesting artists. Number two, I get to introduce the artist world or good information, education, anything, food involves everything back to my community. So bridging these societies with our community is something very rewarding. Hence, I've been doing that for the past 4 months.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think you mentioned earlier how when you first came to the US that you intentionally didn't involve yourselves with Chinese communities. I guess how has that changed as to where you stand now with all of your involvement with these organizations? I guess what changed in your perspective and as you I guess like went from newly immigrated to the US to where you are now?
I don't when I first got here, I don't want to be uh not I don't I have a lot of Chinese friends. I don't from my parents, from school and other things. I don't like to be in When I say I don't like to be in Chinese community, what I meant is a lot of people are so in our own community, they don't get to know other culture because you're so comfortable. I don't like to be always comfortable because then you need to grow. You need to learn the culture. Since I'm in the United States, I need to experience all different cultures. Okay, I was in China for 17 years. I fully experienced my own culture. I know how to speak great Chinese already, But if I keep on involving myself with all my friends, all my connections are Chinese people, then most people don't speak English so well. And then it would force me back to speak Chinese again. Hence, my English skill won't be improved. That's why I purposely, again, it's called growing pain. I purposely force myself to be uncomfortable all the time. I think that's when you're always being uncomfortable, that's when you know you're growing up or you're going more mature or you're learning things because, you know, you're if you're always in the familiar surroundings, you will never learn. So I force myself to make friends with foreigners, with other race of people, so that I learn their culture. Then I'm more um blended in this new culture because we're gonna set to live here, right? You need to learn their culture, you need to know how things work. So I'm never out of in touch with Chinese culture. And maybe I misled or maybe what I said is misleading, whatever, right? But what I meant is I try not to be surround myself with only my own culture so that my English can be improved and to learn other culture because Houston is a very diversity city. And I think me breaking out to different cultures will just kind of learning their culture just make me fit in very well, and fitting in anywhere to be fit in is on the way to make you more comfortable. So coming back to your question of how to bridging these culture, I'm always involved in a lot of Chinese culture. That's why I took on the Chinese radio station because I want to share. I kind of again I want to be a bridge between um different cultures because my English good, my Chinese is good. So I want to bring the good information from different culture back to my society to benefit my people. Culture wise, like this year, my dedication is our art, right? Like Museum of Fine Art, when they're gonna have good events, Asian Society, when they're gonna have good educational events, food events, all these things to help get to help our culture, because Asian Society hosts a lot of good events, helping small business owners, helping kids, helping with educational bridging, you know. So that's why I like to help, and hopefully my little effort would bring some good information to my own community.
I see. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and I think, lastly, just for some wrap-up questions, these are the last few questions that I'm going to ask pertaining to your identity and your perspectives on things. First, how do you identify yourself ethnically?
Chinese.
And then what do you feel most proud of?
Proud of myself, you mean myself or what?
It could just be how you interpret the question. It could be pertaining to yourself and the things that you've done, or just in general, like when you um are asked the question, what do you feel most proud of? Like what comes to your head?
What's most proud of? Always have always have the strength and uh the warm heart towards people, even they betray you.
And then when and where do you feel most at home?
When I'm home.
Sounds
uh,
great. And then how would you describe the
but
Asian
let me
American?
let me re-answer the other question. I
Yes.
think
Okay.
um when I most feel at home, I think so. I kind of give you a little background of my sad childhood, my broken family. They're divorced. They were fighting all through my childhood, and which brings very sadness in my life. So I believe in creating your own family. Um, that's why I try to surround myself with good people. Um, Whatever my parents couldn't give me, I look for it myself. Um, so as now for myself is I am home. Like my strength, my energy, my everything is coming from me. So uh being more independent, more and more independent make me feel home, that I'm
I see.
safe.
Mm.
If that
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Um, and then how would you describe the Asian American community in Houston? And how would you compare it to other places that you visited or lived in?
Asian, you said, how do I describe Asian American society?
How would you describe the Asian American community in Houston? Yes.
Asian American community. Hmm. I think um we could I think this is why I'm dedicating my time this year to kind of be the bridge. I think we can be a little bit more adventurous, more open-minded, and more breaking out to other culture.
And along that kind of grain, what are your hopes for the future for Asian American communities in the US and in Houston?
From my own experience, that the sharing, the radio station host work, the astrology work, I think my and I told you eventually I want to open a school teaching children public speech and um debate, so that you know our next generation can be more adventurous, more knowing how to communicate, so that they can have a brighter future. Because knowing who you are is one thing, but telling people who you are and explain what you can do is very important. So I think communication skills is the one key thing to help our culture to be more bridging out. That's why, me knowing English and Chinese, I'm trying to help them bridging with the English barrier or communication barrier, so that things can be, we have more opportunity, or we can discover more opportunity. So that's my goal, and hopefully we can kind of building more bridges like that, to introducing our great artists, our great musicians to the Western world. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that was amazing. And then lastly, is there anything that you would like to add for the archive that we haven't covered yet?
um so to summarize everything so far, I guess the most earlier we talk about most proud of. I think this year, for the past 2 years, I think I was in the discover journey, and the most thing I'm proud of going through depression, going through pandemic, going through all the hardship. I think I'm becoming a stronger, better person. I think I'm on the way to finding my most strength, and I would like to share my own experience with other people, so that I can help other people with same situation or similar situation to become a better them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Um, those are all the questions that I had for you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with the archive. Um, and I will send you the video of the interview following like all of the other process that we had to do after the interview. But thank you so much for sharing your story again. I had a great time speaking with you and being able to hear your story.